The year was 1775, April 18th. You know the story of William Dawes and his midnight ride. Wait, were you thinking I was going to say Paul Revere? No, this episode of Liberty's Heroes is on the unknown rider William Dawes and his ride along with Paul Revere to warn the colonists of the impending invasion of the British to steal their ammunition and their gunpowder. This edition of Liberty's Heroes. William Dawes was born in 1745 to a family of merchants and lawyers, and at an early age in 1767, he made a vow that he would not purchase anything that's imported from Great Britain. This is corroborated by the Boston Gazette, which said that on his wedding day, his suit was an American-made suit. In fact, Dawes was one of 650 Bostonians who signed this petition to not buy any British goods. His search for revolutionaries took him across the country, where he organized and assisted in this effort. After returning from these rides, his granddaughter later recounted this.
During these rides, he sometimes borrowed a friendly miller's hat and clothes, and sometimes he borrowed a dress of a farmer, and had a bag of meal behind his back on the horse. At one such time a British soldier tried to take away his meal, but grandfather presented arms and rushed on. The meal was for his family. But in trying to stir up recruits, he was often in danger.
Dawes once organized a daring robbery at the gun shop on Boston Common in October of 1774. To show you how brave Dawes was, he once conducted a daring robbery at a gun shop on Boston Common in 1774. It was so brazen that the British were giving roll call while he was having people remove 2 brass cannons out of a window and moving them into an adjacent classroom. In fact, he was even wounded during all of this, but he didn't tell anybody because of the illegal nature of it. And this brings me up to William Dawes and Paul Revere's midnight ride. What this was simply about was it was about warning the countryside, the local towns, that the British were coming to steal their gunpowder, the ammunition, so that they could not defend themselves when it came time to fight. This group was called the Sons of Liberty. It was founded by Samuel Adams, who had this notion of each individual colony being independent and being self-governing. British General Thomas Gage knew about this ammunition, and he wanted it to be seized and taken. But it was his plan to have a sneak attack into the coastline of Boston and Lexington and Concord to remove all of this ammunition and gunpowder so that the British could eventually take them over without a fight. This surprise attack was meant to disarm the Sons of Liberty so that they couldn't defend themselves if there was a future attack on the colonies. But when Paul Revere heard that the British were on the move, he told Robert Newman to hang 2 lanterns in the steeple of the Old North Church. This symbol would alert a backup militia group who was looking at this for the past few weeks in a town called Charlestown. It let them know that they were coming by sea, but it was actually by river. They spread the alarm all the way up to New Hampshire, and there were 2 men that left Boston that night. One was, of course, Paul Revere, and the other one was the subject of our Liberty's Heroes, William Dawes. Now, both of these men's rides were different and had different purposes. Dawes' route was particularly to warn Samuel Adams, who was the founder of the Sons of Liberty, and John Hancock, who was later the chairman of the First and Second Continental Congress. And what's interesting is that as they were moving to Lexington, they were alerting more and more militiamen who then themselves went out and alerted more and more towns around the colonies. So it was a town-to-town relay alarm system set in motion by these 2 men. You may have heard the poem, 1 by land, 2 by sea, and what did that mean? Well, the 2 by sea, which is what happened, was actually the British crossing over through the Charles River, which was about 3 hours quicker than going the land route to the south, going across to an area called Boston Neck and coming back up into Concord. That was more what Dawes' route looked like, coming down south and coming over to the left and coming up, where Paul Revere went more to the north. Now, what is important to understand about this alarm ride to Lexington and Concord is that it was extremely dangerous and risky, because had they gotten caught, they could have been tried and hanged for their efforts. So what this alarm ride did was it allowed the colonies to wake up and be prepared. They had a system in place run by Minutemen who could get themselves ready in 1 minute and be ready to defend the town. They were alerted, so the British coming in wouldn't come into a sleeping town, they would come into a town full of people awake, ready to fight. And as we know, the efforts of Dawes and Revere and later Prescott and other writers were successful in preventing the British from getting any gunpowder, any weapons whatsoever, so the colonies were able to defend themselves when it came time for the Revolutionary War to kick off a few months later. Now, the American poet Henry Longfellow did not mention Dawes, which is why we probably have never heard of him, but William Dawes is by all accounts a true Liberties hero. My name is Kyle Suggs of The Conservative Take for Red Liberty Media. And if you like what we do here at Red Liberty Media, where we are a bunch of independent journalists presenting you the truth of conservatism, the foundations of this country, and everything that's cool like that, then please click the Patreon link below and in the show notes so you can support us as we try and grow this effort.